Welcome back. So I'll cut straight to the chase. By the end of this video, you'll have watched me customize my G Pro Superlight with a couple of mods that I think truly elevate it to just GOAT status, just the best gaming mouse that you can buy right now on the market. And if you have a G Pro Superlight, great, but if you don't, maybe you can still learn how to do these simple mods and do them to your mouse to make it feel extra nice. You ready? Okay, let's get to it. So if you're new to the channel, consider watching my full review of the G Pro Superlight that I made last year if you want more details on why I think this mouse really is so great. But the short version pretty much is that the combination of the 60-gram weight, Logitech's wireless tech, the shape, the mouse coating, and the super long lasting battery life make it, in my opinion, one of the best out there right out of the box. Oh, but you don't believe me? Well, let me just call this completely random person on my phone that absolutely never received a Christmas gift from me containing a G Pro Superlight and see what he has to say about it. Tinha só uma pergunta para te fazer. Qual é que é, na tua opinião profissional, assim, o melhor rato do mundo inteiro? Uma opinião tipo nada biased, nada biased. Of course, so much about gaming mice is personal preference, so please don't think that I'm excluding your favorites because I have anything against them. We definitely live in a great period when it comes to gaming mice options. But you're probably wondering why? Why go to all this trouble to make mods to a mouse that in the end will feel mostly the same? Mostly. But not completely the same. You see, if, for example, you go with the Razer Viper Ultimate and for some reason you're not super happy with the mouse clicks, you can't really do much about it since Razer uses optical sensors, and even if they are super fast, they're not super common. But that's not the case with mechanical mouse switches, the more normal and traditional options that are readily available from many different brands with many different characteristics. Love everything about your mouse, but want to make it completely silent? Just buy some Kale silent switches and swap them in. Love everything about your mouse, but just want the clicks to be a little bit more firm, a little bit heavier or lighter, or just want to improve their feel just a little bit. There are a bunch of different brands from TTC to Kale to there's literally hundreds of options that you can swap into your mouse to get that improved feel, and that's definitely something that I was very excited about. I bought the Kale GM2s, the Kale GM4s, and the Kale GM8s to try and see which one is truly my favorite. The main differences between them are the amount of force needed for actuation, their sound, and also their durability, since the Kale 2.0s will last for 20 million clicks, the same as the stock Omron 20M switches. The 4.0s will last for 40 million clicks, and also the 8.0s will last for 80 million clicks. I thought it kind of made sense that the harder a switch is to click, the longer it will click for without breaking, and I thought that kind of made a lot of sense since a more lightweight switch mechanism will probably just degrade over time quicker. And if you want some advice, just buy multiple copies of the same switch. My 6 switches costed less than €5 including shipping, and having multiple copies is definitely a good peace of mind once you're actually putting them in the mouse. It's also possible that you buy a pair of switches and they don't feel exactly the same, so having multiple pairs is definitely a good practice. And if this is your first ever soldering job, it's a very good place to start, and it was my first ever attempt at soldering anything. And if you put excessive heating and if you don't have like a good place to just prop up the mouse PCB, it's possible that you can overheat a switch, and I did that and it wasn't pretty. So having a replacement to just fix the situation right there on your side is definitely a good thing. With that said, to open your Superlight, you have to remove the stock PTFE mouse feet, and if you want my advice, just buy some core pads. If I was to point out one weakness of the Superlight, that would be the stock mouse feet. Not only are they super thin, they lack any form of curve on the edges, and even if they get relatively smooth after you break them in, straight out of the box, I remember thinking that something was wrong given the amount of scratchiness that I felt. None of that happens with core pads, and you get a pack of 2 replacements for less than €10, and you will never look back. So even if replacing your mouse switches sounds too daunting of a task, replacing your stock mouse feet can definitely be a big improvement in a lot of different mice out there. Remove the screws underneath, and that should free the bottom shell from the top shell. Unhook the two cables that connect both parts, being particularly careful with the ribbon cable that needs to be unlatched before it can be removed. And then you have to remove the battery that's lightly glued in place, and that's blocking the back screw from both mouse buttons. Be gentle and avoid using anything sharp that can pierce the battery, but you shouldn't have to use any heat or excessive force to remove it. Once that's done, remove the two mouse buttons from the top of the mouse, and you will have a clear look at the top PCB that houses the two stock Omron 20M switches. Remove the final cable and the last couple of screws, and you will have a tiny PCB in your hand to actually replace the switches. Now, I could come here and tell you that the soldering and resoldering went smoothly, but given that I only have two hands and you kind of need three, since you need to pull down on the switch at the same time that you're heating the pads, I ended up getting nervous, and when I soldered the KLGM2s in place that I thought would be my favorite out of all, the excessive heat that I applied to resolder it slightly melted the plastic housing of the switch, and the feel is now completely compromised. So I calmed myself down and decided to just try again with a different switch and being much more careful with the amount of heat, and then success! I was able to solder in place the KLGM8 switches that, for better or for worse, are now my favorite. And here is a before and after of the actual switch sound. You can definitely hear that the sound is tighter and crisper than it was before, but it's much more of the feel that changed. In general, this crispiness in the mouse clicks gives me extra confidence when pulling the trigger in FPS games, but honestly, don't expect a massive change to your performance. It's all personal preference. The combination of the new mice feet and the new switches definitely elevate this mouse above and beyond, and if I believe that in the stock form the G-Pro Superlight was the best mouse that you could buy right now on the market, with these mods, I think it's a step above everything else. And if you're not too discouraged about how difficult it sounded and it felt watching me do it, definitely I really encourage you to do them, because they definitely bring this mouse to a league of its own. But don't really expect your aim to be just absolutely insane, just swiping insane flicks, just always beaming people left and right. I mean, games are much more than aim these days, and if all the time that I spent researching mice and just modding my mouse, I spent that time in game, that'll probably result in me being a better player right now. But you're here, but it's absolutely nothing to do with the Superlight, mouse modding, anything related to that. You're just here for some feline action, and I'll surely give that to you. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and you stick around, and yeah, bye!